What is up, everybody? Jarrett from Empire of Assets here, and today this is the first video in a three-part series about buying Pokemon collections and then flipping them, how to get the most value out of them, and some tips and tricks. The Pokemon market, particularly the modern market, has really slowed down and prices have dropped pretty significantly. So I definitely think that this has made a buying opportunity. Lots of people are looking to get out of the hobby that kind of got bought up into the hype and then are now looking to sell their collection. I recently picked up a collection, so I thought this would be a great example to kind of talk through what I look for when I buy a collection, then how I break the collection down after I get it, and then how I end up selling the collection and getting my money back out of it. So this first video is just going to be about how I find collections, what I'm looking for right now, what I'm looking for more generally, and just kind of how I go about that. So jumping right into it, my two main sources of collections at this point are Facebook Marketplace and Craigslist. I've actually found probably an equal amount of deals on both. Facebook Marketplace obviously has a lot more quantity, but people have a lot higher prices, and usually people aren't quite as serious, I would say. Usually if people put stuff on Craigslist, they're a scammer. Definitely be very careful of that on Craigslist. There is a ton of scammers out there, so only meet people locally. But the people that are really looking to sell their collections on Craigslist are usually a bit more serious and a bit more reasonable in price, where on Facebook anybody can kind of take a couple minutes, slap some couple pictures up and ask ridiculous prices. So you definitely have to spend a lot of time weeding through, but those are the two main places that I look. Part of the reason that I worked on this channel was hoping to get some more deal flow, both on the buying and the selling end. So if you do have a collection that you're looking to sell, definitely send me an email. My email is listed down in the description. It is empireofassets@gmail.com, and I would love to see what you have for sale. But so yeah, that is kind of where I get most of my collections from, and then what I'm looking for. So basically how I break down collections is I am going to try and get a list of all the cards in the collection or pictures of definitely the most expensive cards in the collection, and then I want front and back pictures, and I'm going to kind of roughly grade the cards. Usually I just go kind of near mint, light played, or heavy played, and then I'm going to look up basically all the cards in the collection. The more you look up, well, the more you do it, the more you can kind of guess what the cards are worth. Eventually, after a while, it's pretty easy to see, oh, this is a $1 card, $1 card, $1 card. But at first, or even still, I look up the majority of the cards in the collection on eBay, what their raw prices are, and then I'm going to make a big list of all the cards in the collection, and then I'm usually going to look at about 70% of that value. 60 to 70% leaves you enough room to make a okay profit. eBay, you figure, is going to charge you about 13%, and then if you have to pay for shipping, that's going to eat another pretty good chunk out of it. So at that 65-70% range leaves you a little bit. And then the big thing that I do look for too is you want some cards in the collection to be gradable. And what do I mean by gradable? I am talking about higher end cards that are in really good shape. This Celebi EX from the collection I just picked up is a pretty good example. You'll see there is a little bit of whitening on the top right there, and there's a little bit on the bottom, but it's a pretty clean card. The front is really clean, no scratches, and for these EX cards, which are really hard to grade, this one is probably, I would say, a 7 or an 8. So I would want a couple cards like this that are probably worth sending off to PSA to get graded, because that is where you're going to make the majority of your money. It's not going to be in the non-gradable sort of bulk cards. It's just tough to make a lot of money there, because even some of the more expensive ones, if they're in that sort of condition that's not worth grading, are only going to be worth maybe $50, but the majority are going to be in the $5 to $15 range. And in that price range, you can't sell them as singles because of the $4 shipping, because I ship everything in a bubble mailer, first class, because envelopes just leave too much risk for it to get eaten by the machine. Then you have an angry customer and you're out the card and you have to refund the money. So I do everything in a bubble mailer, which I believe on the cheap end is like $3. maybe a little cheaper than that. I think it's like $2.35, I guess, if it's under 3 ounces or whatever. But you factor that in, so then say it's a $5 card and you're paying $2.50 to ship it, and then you're paying 13% fees. There's nothing left there. So those cards you have to sell in bulk usually, or sell in lots, is what I like to do, because then maybe you can get $100 or a couple $100 for a lot of cards, and then you still only have to pay maybe $10 shipping. So that works a little better. It definitely decreases your shipping cost per card. So you just have to remember that those cards aren't going to be your make your money on. The cards that you are going to make your money on are the potential PSA 9, PSA 10 vintage cards that sell for $300, $500. It's pretty easy now to get a card that's even worth $1,000, or it was before prices dropped. But that is really where you're going to make the majority of your money. But then you also have to factor in that right now PSA is shut down, so you can't send anything off to get graded if you're using PSA. And then if you do send stuff in, it's now $20 a card, and you probably won't get it back for a year. The first collection that I bought, or kind of a bunch of collections that I sent in, was 50 cards to PSA back in November. And from what I hear, Graded Gem, which was the middleman that I used for the grading, just got back the first shipment that they sent off back in August. They just got that back last week. So if you kind of extrapolate that out, my November shipment probably won't be back here until, I would say, maybe September, October. Hopefully it's back before a year, but something around that time frame roughly. So you're going to have that capital tied up for a year. If you send out 50 cards, it's going to be $1,000 at $20 a card in bulk now to get graded. So you're going to have the cost of the cards, and you're going to have that $1,000 tied up. And obviously you can do less than that, but then you're paying more per card. So to get the ball rolling, it's going to take a while, but it is, I kind of like to think of building maybe a castle, and you have to lay bricks every day or every chance you get to keep building it up. So this is kind of an example of laying bricks down, and it is slow, but it is a grind, and this is how you make the moves to get to the higher end stuff. In the next video, I will talk about kind of breaking down the collection, how I split it up into just modern bulk that's basically 3 cents a card, vintage bulk that you can usually get quite a bit more for, and then the gradable cards, and then anything that I want to sell as singles. So that will be in the next video. Stay tuned for that. We will get to actually tear apart this collection, and I will show you guys what cards I picked up. There is some nice cards. This was almost a 4-figure deal, not quite there, in that $900 range. So you can see how you think I did. It's about 250, 300 cards, I believe. So we will check that out in the next video. Thanks for watching. That is what I look for in buying a collection. Subscribe to see the next 2 parts, and I will catch you guys in the next video.